And we're back with another exciting episode of The Incredible Hokes. I am Chris.
I am Mark.
And we have got our nice little setup here. We got... Did we do all this the same time? Last time we had our little setup? We got the little camera tripod thing, phone tripod thing, and the little audio recorder. I feel so fancy. I got a little remote for the audio recorder. I feel fancy now. I feel like Incredible Hokes is taking a next step.
Well, before we had the mic and we were taking turns hitting it.
Yeah, a.k.a. you kept hitting it. And now we got this little mic thing. I got a little remote. I can turn it on there, but that's my phone. But my phone shoots 4K, and I got a little tripod. That's really nice. Incredible Hokes are next generation. Speaking of next generation,
yes.
The new Star Wars: The Last Jedi, featuring the newest generation.
Right.
Star Wars folk, Rey, Finn, Poe, etc.
Right.
Is out. We gave a short. No, I didn't short actually. It actually went for 20 minutes.
Yeah, but it was in the moment.
It was an in the moment reaction. This is a calculated. We've both seen it twice now.
Right.
What are your, upon second viewing, had time to process it, thoughts on Star Wars Episode 8: The Last Jedi?
Okay, my official final, now that the dust has settled, I give The Last Jedi 2 stars. It's my least favorite in all the Star Wars franchise films, hands down. It's so unsatisfying, unfulfilling. Did see it twice. The second time was in IMAX. The issues I have with it are not a technical issue. These movies that spend about $200 million, usually it's not a technical issue. It's usually your story structures somehow went awry. The movie has I would say it's a fairly solid first act. Don't have an issue there.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the movie, when it goes into the second act, you have inner rows, and then the wheels start coming off this movie. So I can give you my three things that, real briefly, too many bait and switches, too many plot manipulations, and too many characters. That's my three reasons why it gets such a low rating. And the more I thought about it, I kept having a hard time finding things I actually liked about the movie beyond the character of Poe Dameron. I really like what he's doing and his arc in that movie, but beyond that, I just go away so like, why did you go do that on this character? What was this adventure? What was that detour all about? I end up doing that so much to the point where I'm not left with much things that I care about. And with repeated viewings, that's not going to change.
This is an anomaly where I agree with everything you said, but I still would go, you're going this, and I still would go this. But I don't disagree with really anything you said. And that's very weird. I don't know many movies that can do this. And maybe that's because, as you see, I'm a Star Wars nut, so maybe I give it a lot of grace. I'm sure that factors into it somewhere.
And I wanted to like it. I really did, by the way.
I can't say it's worse than Revenge of the Sith, which is my least favorite of all. Revenge of the Sith, to me, is easily the worst of all the Star Wars movies. It makes so many mistakes that we could do a whole other show to Revenge of the Sith. Attack of the Clones, I think, might even be not as good as this one. But what does it do wrong? I agree with everything you said. Star Wars has never been about, oh, but wait. Or, oh, I gotcha. Other than the very famous cliffhanger of Luke, I'm your father,
right, and
Leia is your sister in Return. Other than those, it hasn't been about a whole bunch of gotcha moments or you didn't see that coming. That's not what Star Wars. Star Wars have always been very linear, very simple. Each episode sort of takes a place within a small window of time. It's not like weeks happen. It's usually a day, 2 days, whatever. It's a narrow part of time in the story.
By the way, this is spoiler. If so.
Oh, we'll have to put it on the thing.
Yeah, it will be a graphic.
If at this point, if you haven't seen it, that's your fault, not mine. I mean, it's been out long enough. If you're really that big a fan,
we haven't seen anything spoiler yet, but
yeah, spoilers.
Spoilers.
So I don't like that aspect of it. I agree with you there. What was the other thing? So too many characters. That's
too many characters.
Horrible problem with the movie. What was the third thing?
The plot manipulations.
That's what I said, and then you said,
oh, and too many bait and switches,
which goes to me along with the manipulations. It's kind of the same thing to me. So I agree with you. Somebody said that like, hey, I knew Luke was disconnected from the Force as soon as he didn't know Han was dead. Well, I mean, I'm great that you got that, but that's not what Star Wars is about. Star Wars is not, nor never has it been, oh, the butler did it. I knew it. I told you. That's not what the fuck Star Wars is. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm going to say it with emphasis. That is not what in the fuck Star Wars is.
Right.
Why this movie chose to be that is goddamn beyond me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that. Look over here, and okay, now we're doing this.
And it did to the point.
Yeah.
And the second time I watched it, I liked the movie a lot. The first time I watched it, I was torn between really liking parts of it, but being infuriated by the others. So I guess real quick, so this doesn't take like a half hour. Rose is still abysmal. Rose to me is Jar Jar level abysmal still on the second viewing. The Cantabite sequence is ridiculously bad and doesn't belong. I would edit it out. I would do like a phantom edit, like they have phantom edits.
Right.
I could totally edit that shit out, and you never even miss it. Rose is, I hope she doesn't come back. I hope she's dead. I hope something happens and we don't have to deal with that shit again.
She'll be there with bells on, episode 9.
I know. And so what else I did not like? She is horrible. I like Kylo. I like Adam Driver's performance. I don't understand what's motivating him. And that's a big problem for me right now. Why? Other than he wants to just be evil? I don't really feel that the conflict is that genuine. It's almost like he's trying on purpose to be bad, and really he's good. And the bad stuff is all a lie. He really it's like he's really not into it that much. Does that make sense? Like, have you ever been with some friends and they're going to do something that is sort of out of your character, and maybe it's drinking, maybe it's I was at one time, true story, some kids I was with were going to go boost cars. They were going to take those car stereos out of cars. Well, I got out of that situation as fast as I could. I wasn't going to be a part of that. But if I had been, I'd have been like Kylo, this is bad. I would have been miserable the entire time, wanting to get away from this. And that's what it feels like with Kylo. I don't buy that he's there's something wrong. There's something missing there. His goals and objectives are not clear to me whatsoever. I don't know why he wants to be bad. I have no idea. And don't tell me, well, he emulates his grandfather. That's not enough. That's it?
Yeah. See, that goes to this movie fleshing out or not fleshing out the backstory that was with Luke and his Jedi Academy. They kind of just quickly address that. They quickly dismiss Snoke. They get rid of him. So all these things where they could kind of get into explore that background and give more motivations, they quickly went right on through, presumably because Rian Johnson was not interested in it. So he just wanted to take the shortest path to address those issues and get rid of them. So he could get on to the story, the parts of the story he cared about. And you're left with motivations that are very thin.
We now have roughly 5 hours of new Star Wars, and I have no idea what Kylo really wants. I don't know. Does he want to control the universe?
Other than the Hitler speech that General Hux gives in Force Awakens,
that's Hux.
that's Hux, and he's kind of giving you what First Order is about. So we can only assume that Snoke and Kylo sign off on that. But I totally mean. I get what you're saying. That was an opportunity in this movie to flesh out those things more. But it was more interested in this weird triangle of Rey and Luke and Kylo, and that was a weird choice.
All right, well, moving on. So, what I did like, Kylo's turn to kill Snoke, or however you say it. I really don't know how you say it. Snoke. Like, to me, was awesome. When they fight the Praetorian Guards, it's awesome. I like the post-Dameron stuff, even though the demotion and then Lord are not telling him the plan, really thin, but I kind of went along with it. I'll just go along with this. I like that storyline. So and the visual effects are amazing. And then when Phasma shows up and they have the fight inside the hangar of Snoke's ship, that worked really well for me. So I like the action. Really, watching the second time, Rose and the Cantabite sequence are just clunk bad. It's bad. And if I could delete those, it would improve the quality of the movie by leaps and bounds.
Yeah. That's a long scene just to establish Broom Boy. You know?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's all you get.
That's the only thing that really lasts from it.
That lasts from it. Anything that lingers from it is just Broom Boy.
But as I watched the movie the second time, I knew what was coming. I was able to accept it. I sort of saw how he crafted it, and I was like, okay, I bought in, and I enjoyed it. I was like, okay, I enjoyed this experience of watching this a second time. But as I've told you before in our conversations outside of this, it's an indefensible movie. I completely, you could punch on it, and I would just sit there and watch. It's like if it's a person, and I'm like, yeah, he's all right, but you had beef with him and you started fighting him, I wouldn't intervene. I would not intervene. I would just let you beat on him.
It is a strange movie because, normally, if you like something, it's more like, no, I think you're being too hard on the movie. But this is one of those rare ones where you're like, I see where you're coming from.
Now, well, I will say this. One last thing, I don't want to cut you off, but I will say this. The fanboys, in some of our conversations we have, there have been certain elements that have been overthought by the fans. There was something you said the other day over Christmas. I was like, "Oh, good God, you're overthinking that." But I can't remember what it was now. The social aspects, I think people are way overthinking.
Yeah. I don't even want to get into all that.
Yeah.
I think critics are really responding to that, by the way. But that's a whole nother subject. When you have so many bait and switches, there are certain scenes that I thought that where others were ecstatic over. It's like, well, they've already been okay, Leia's dead and now she's not, and Holdo is incompetent, now she's not.
That was a weird scene.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So you're doing it to me. So I'm like, okay, now I'm supposed to just take on face value that Kylo is having a come to Jesus moment. And I wasn't there. I was like, nope, you've bait and switched me too much for 90 minutes. I'm sorry I'm not there. And so that's a better way, I think, to say it than I said it the other day. The other way probably came out, it wasn't as articulate, but that's the best way I can say it. When you just, I wasn't buying it because there's just too many bait and switches. So
yeah.
That's all. That's how I'll address that.
Well, Rian Johnson was part of Breaking Bad for a while. Directed some episodes. I don't know if he was a writer.
Yeah, that Ozymandias or whatever episode.
I'm wondering if I haven't watched, other than Looper, I haven't watched any of his other stuff. And honestly, I'm not too interested in making a big effort to go watch him. By the way, this is a side note. I've found with these indie directors that get picked up later on and they do these big franchises, if you go back and watch these indies that got them there, rarely are you like, oh wow, what a gem. That rarely happens. It's usually that's terrible.
Right. Well, at best, you're like, well, I suppose, yeah.
It was okay. It was clever.
I see some raw potential there.
Or it's kind of clever or something.
Yeah.
But rarely have I found one that went back to one of those and go, oh my God, this is like early Scorsese or something. It never really happens.
It's like, holy mackerel. Yeah.
I just had to throw that out there. Anyway, it's a weird movie. And that's yes, thank you. I'm glad I said that. That's my final thought on it. I liked it overall. I enjoyed my experience, but it's weird. It's a weird movie. It's awkward. It's like an awkward dinner guest.
Yeah.
And every other dinner guest has been cool and has kind of followed a certain line. And then that one shows up and he just says words just off. He chews just a little too much with his mouth open. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's just off. Like Leia going in space and then flying back. Weird.
Right.
And I think Red Letter Media, those guys, was it their review or somebody, their review, they kept pointing out things. They go, weird. And that was, due credit to whoever, I think it was them, I'm not sure who it was, but due credit to them. They were hit the money. It's weird. There's too many weird things happen.
Yeah, I know that Half in the Bag kind of touch on that.
Was it theirs?
To a degree. Yeah.
Some review I saw, they kept pointing out all the weird things. And they would even go, this happened weird.
They
this
certainly did
weird.
strike on that there are some strange things. It just seems to be recurring in that movie.
Just weird. Leia thing's weird.
I could just read off a list just to prove my final statement on this movie was like,
you got the last word.
Like, just the bait and switches alone. Leia's dead? No, she's not. Alberto is incompetent? No, she's not. Snoke is a big deal? No, he's not. Rey's parents are important. No, they're not. Finding Luke is imperative. No, it's not. The Jedi Temple and scrolls are vital. No, it's not. Luke training Rey is essential. No, it's not. Luke rejoining the fight is key. No, it's not. Kylo is a conflicted character. No, he's not.
Well, that one I have a hard time with the conflicted thing. He's conflicted. I just don't know why. I mean,
but you see what I'm saying?
No.
But in totality, I was trying to.
Yeah.
There's a pattern there of.
Yes, 1,000%.
Of fake outs, if you will.
I would say. In the next one, I really am glad now that J.J. Abrams is doing it. At first, I was like, "Oh man, come on, let some artists sort of have his vision."
Kathleen Kenney's he has to be hearing some of this fan reaction. I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes audience score has got to hurt her deeply because she cares. She wants to make these movies.
Yeah, the critics was like 90, but the audience was like 50.
Yeah, it's low. It's in the low 50s.
Which there's been some speculation that was certain groups
overloading. Apparently they investigated it and they said it's had no effect. It's what you see is what you get.
Well, anyway, they can right the ship and let this movie stand, I think, pretty easily. I think you just need clarity with Kylo. If Rey's parents were nothing, that's fine.
Yeah.
But provide some clarity for Rey's direction. I don't know.
Right.
Is she going to be a Jedi? Is that what we're going to do? I'm not really sure. Does she even want to be?
Right.
Does she really want to be? Can't be with Finn if you're a Jedi. Or are those rules gone that you burn? Clarity. The next one has to have simplistic clarity.
Right.
We did layered and nuanced. We've done that.
Right.
Okay. Clarity.
Right.
Let's just do simple. I think it's how you ride the ship.
Yeah, in a weird way, I don't know why Rian Johnson, you almost feel like he felt like he inherited all these loose threads, so he was going to make sure the next person, he was going to do him a big solid, and I'm going to wipe the slate clean. And so all these things he addressed in a way where they can literally, they can literally jump ahead 3 years. They don't have to I'm stuck on this island in Octo. I have to pick up my story there, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Rian Johnson had to deal with. So it's stuff like that. He might have oh great, I really don't even want to be on Octo, kind of a thing. So
I don't know what he thought. I think I am curious to see what he does in the new trilogy because a lot of the things he did with this one reminded me of the Knights of the Old Republic video game and stuff like that with Cantabite and all that stuff. So maybe if he has a blank canvas and can do what he wants and a completely with no expectation trilogy over here, he might craft something really nice. And in that one, he can have all the little flips and turns. That'll be what it is. It'll be new.
I think the last thing I wrote on here, which we hadn't got to, and is my final word on this, is as a fan, I think the thing that hurt me as a fan, this is not Mark the amateur critic, this is not Mark the fan. What hurt me the most about Last Jedi is how could they leave Luke on that planet Octo and not have him join with Rey after that R2-D2 scene, right? Where he's reminded what, Luke used to be all about. The image of Luke from, Princess Leia from A New Hope. Help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. And that was a really touching scene. That should have been the call to arms that Luke needed. And instead, she leaves the island. She's like, he's acting like an ass. To hell with it. I'm going to take this. I've been by myself this far. I'll continue my journey without him, and I just feel so empty with that. He does show up in the end, but Rita, she senses, he died, and it's such a flat and awkward scene with her and Princess Leia, like, he's dead, and she's like, yeah, I sense it too. Yeah, and you just know that Rey's thinking, we didn't really hit it off, but now I'm looking at her sister, and I have to act like I'm more bothered. And
every time Leia's like, every time I see this bitch, somebody close to me has died. My husband, or my ex-husband, and now whether they're married or wherever they were. Anyway,
you just know that Leia's like, my brother died, and Rey's kind of like, he's such an ass to me, but I have to kind of feign. Awkward. It was awkward.
Well, it's one of those deals where you go, and then I go, It's. Do you still put it below Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones?
Oh yeah, it's the lowest one.
That's crazy.
My lowest one before Last Jedi was Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
So
mine's always been Revenge of the Sith.
See, of the prequels, I liked Revenge of the Sith the most of those three.
Yeah.
So that's where we differed there.
That's because George Lucas took a giant shit on Anakin versus Obi-Wan.
But I won't argue at heart. The prequels were such a disappointment in general.
That's a whole nother episode. Yeah. But long story short, George Lucas basically undid his trousers, squatted over Obi-Wan versus Anakin, and just relieved himself all over it. He even, sometimes when you go poo, you have to pee as well. He did all of it. He pooed and peed on it as he squatted.
It's 22 years of expectations. So people been hearing about this, and fans been hearing about the classic Obi-Wan Anakin confrontation that changed everything.
But here's the problem, and this goes back to Last Jedi. And this is my final thought because we got to end. Don't blame us for the expectations when you fucking set them. Right.
That's a great. Thank you. It's a great way to end.
And that's one of my problems I have with people that attack the fanboys and fandom and geekdom.
Yes.
I got all this shit for a reason.
Yes.
Because I really enjoy it. And you've delivered good movies.
Right.
And you set an expectation. So don't get mad at me when you fail at it. And that was my biggest problem that was my beef with George Lucas.
Yeah.
You set the expectation, motherfucker.
Right. And I've been on record that my favorite movie character, period, of all time is Luke Skywalker. And if you don't deliver Luke Skywalker, I gotta tell you, it meant a lot. It meant a lot to me to hear Mark Hamill go around going, "Well, he's not my Luke Skywalker." It's like, "Well, thank you."
He apologized for that, by the way.
And I know, but
I think he was like the studio's like, "Motherfucker."
Right.
And he was like, "Oh yeah."
But I knew what he meant because he basically was expressing what I felt.
Right.
It's like the Luke that we know from years ago wouldn't have sat there on that island. He would have left that island with Rey, and that's what we don't get. And that is a major motivational plot hole, if you will, that I just can't reconcile as a fan with Last Jedi.
Well, like I said, Don't get mad at us for an expectation that you set. And I'm sure there's all kinds of beef somebody could have with that, but that's my thought. I don't even know how to end this episode. I don't know how to end this. Usually we say something and go, with that I do.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything.
Well, since Rose herself was passive aggressive, we'll just say a dude, get out of here.
Speaking of failing expectations.
Yeah.